opportunities in humanizing marketing. And we think a session here tonight on this question. I really got inspired to invite my good friend and also business partner from ADA, Anurag, who's basically doing awesome work in this space. Thank you so much for joining, Anurag.
It's a pleasure, Chris. Thank you for inviting me.
You know, the reason why I kind of wanted for you to share is because we often meet up and talk about business and life, and we work on some client projects together and so on. And what we're really seeing is in Humaning's work to kind of humanize business and find the human opportunity, the opportunity to create better business, better work. We see that many organizations have been talking about digital transformation, working on digital transformation, and with digital transformation, the old kind of separation between product design and strategy, marketing, sales, operations, support, upselling, CRMs, all this stuff is in a way becoming one journey from a customer lens. And increasingly, you can say that the boundaries between these different fields are kind of being diluted or at least merged together, right? And the work you guys are doing as a leading service provider in this space, as you can say, you can probably describe it better than I can, but as a company that has shareholders like a telco, Axiata Group, you have SoftBank, Sumitomo as amongst your shareholders, right? You're in a way a leading player, not just in Malaysia, but regionally in this space. So I wanted the viewers tonight to kind of get a feel for what's going on at the forefront of this space in the region. And maybe to start with at a more human level, could you share a little bit what is actually your day-to-day like? What do you do? What's your role? And what is it that excites you about working in this space?
Okay, so a little bit about myself. Have been in marketing and advertising for now 26 years. I joined in 1996 when there was no discussion on data or digital whatsoever, and I launched the first mobile phone brand in India. So it was that ancient, right? And hence I have a very interesting perspective on how marketing has evolved over the years, having worked on 3 continents or more, 4 continents, multiple countries, multiple clients and brands and companies. So it has been a very, very interesting journey. And I think that from where I sit today and the company which I work for, we are at the cutting edge of what you talked about, digital transformation, which is happening. So I have got a front row view of how things are evolving on data and digital. What I do for ADA, I'm the Chief Operating Officer, and I also run the agency business. So ADA, very quickly, ADA is like the normal perception is we are a digital agency. We are not. We are not just a digital agency. We are a data and AI company which delivers marketing services. So whether it is your insight or it is digital transformation or marketing services, which is media and creative, or customer engagement solutions, which can be, how do you send reminder messages and stuff like that. So it's the whole gamut of services. So I lead the 4 practices, which is MarTech, the agency part, which is marketing services, business insights, and e-commerce, right? Basically, the interesting part of my job is that while they seem separate challenges, but they are very much interlinked. What you talked about earlier, that they seem that different things, but they are in a customer journey, they're all interlinked. So my job is to say that we create good practices, plus also see that how they work together, so that client is not being sold a practice, but he's being sold a solution. What I do during the day, like what everybody is trying to do during the lockdown, watch your weight. So
and doing a good job at it, I've noticed.
Trying to do a good job about it. So being a little more disciplined about day to day. So I'm a very, very old world believer of that if you have to go to office, you have to always be in office on time. And I try to do that. That in my room, I have to dress up and enter in the room at 9 o'clock. After that, I can reply to my mails or catch up the news, but I have to. So I've tried to keep the routine so that I just don't snooze out at odd hours. And yeah, and evenings are interesting sometimes now with things have opened, meeting clients or meeting partners like you, having discussions. So that's what my day is, apart from fighting fires across 10 countries.
It sounds like a really exciting journey, right? And maybe as you have gone through your career and now in ADA, what are you seeing is kind of maybe changing a bit in the kind of agency marketing space, and where is it that ADA perhaps has a slightly different take on how to create value for clients compared to some of the more traditional agencies? Or
yeah, so what happened was that, Chris, that digital came to the marketing world with a big promise. That digital delivers measurable result. So digital is measurable. Yeah, people sometimes undermine marketing and advertising, that when they talk about, the old adage about advertising is that I spend $100, 50 works and 50 doesn't work. I don't know which 50 works and which 50. And to an extent, it was true, right? That it was very hard to attribute what you spend to actual sales. Yes, it moves needles on awareness, brand love, and all the other things which are important, definitely important. But digital came with a bang, which was all about measurable, all about more personalized. So it is no more reducing consumers to a lowest common denominator. That and this I when I do workshops with new entrants to ADA, I take this example that because of the nature of mass media, everybody reduced, and the most abused target segment in advertising is a young mother anywhere in the world. And this is how she's described, that 24 to 34 young mom with kids, very dedicated to the husband. And you are expected that all young mothers in Malaysia, or for that matter in the world, will behave exactly the same, right?
But 2.5 children, yeah. Not 2 or 3, but 2.5 children.
Yeah. And there are, and in reality, that is what digital wanted to promise to unpack, that we will look at consumers more closely and with more granular insights, right? So there can be single young mothers, there can be young mothers who are working, young mothers who are CEOs, pilots, policewomen, all kinds of young mothers, right? And their motivation to buy a product or service can be very different, fundamentally. And hence, the whole promise of digital was, we will understand consumers better. And the second promise was that you can personalize messages to them after you understand them better. And third promise was that once you serve the messages to them, very, very targeted messages, you will know exactly whether these messages worked or not. But what happened was that for the longest time, digital was being misused, and the old TV or mass media metrics were being used to measure digital. Okay, which is likes and cost per clicks and all that, but never going to the actual results. Now suddenly, and I'm not saying it is because of COVID. It started happening 3 or 4 years back, with the advent of, and especially in our region with e-commerce and all coming. Suddenly, there is a more awareness amongst clients that marketing can be measurable and should be measurable, and hence this whole thing about asking their partners or looking for more data, or being more aware of how do we collect data which can help us be more smarter in our marketing. What are the technologies available which can reduce costs? So complexity of consumers and media have increased, but the budgets have not increased, and hence people have to do more with less money. And that is a natural the natural way is that I need to find better ways to do stuff, and I think that is what is happening. And the other end of the spectrum is that there are some of the very unknown young companies who are what they call direct to consumer companies who are uh, who using digital much better than the traditional ones, and they are gaining market share, and that is scaring people, right?
And what is it
So
they're getting right that maybe their corporate older brothers or uncles, perhaps aunties, could learn from?
I, I I can give you an example, and I really admire that company, and I guess everybody uses the products. There's a company called Anchor, Anker. They make this is not Anchor product, but this is like a hard disk and mobile phone battery packs, and that is what. So that brand was created for Amazon. So what they looked at was that they wanted to get into a category of mobile phone and computer peripherals, right? And so look at the way, the clever way that they went and looked at that category and understood what were the consumers' problems. So all the uh, Amazon comments where people are buying battery packs and wires and chargers and all that, they looked at the comments. They looked at how that category was being sold. Mostly it was coming from China, which is the biggest producer of that stuff, but it was all very generic stuff. So people who do not want to buy very expensive branded products, it was they were left with either expensive branded products or very cheap generic stuff, which were very bad quality, right? Uh, and they created the brand. And if you look at the way they sell a wire, a USB cable, they romanticize. They they understood that what the consumers want. What are the questions they have? Okay, that will this wire break after so many uses, and hence they explained that what they have put into this wire, right? Why their charger will work for so many recharge cycles. So they started selling it like a really expensive product at priced very competitively. And I think they are the largest mobile peripheral brand on Amazon globally in 2 or 3 years time, right? And there are many with the way mattresses are being sold. We see in Malaysia there are many brands who have gone and broken the traditional trend of how things are being marketed, have understood, have harnessed the power of digital, and gone and captured a large amount of market share, right? So and there will be many which will be coming. So that's kind of a wake up call for a lot of things, and it is also, it's kind of a very interesting uh, advent of a very interesting phase in marketing, right?
Absolutely, and I guess you can say that from a design standpoint, product design standpoint, they will leverage sentiment analysis on social media, on e-commerce sites. They can
Absolutely.
leverage data like the sort of data that you have on consumers to get a deep understanding and empathy, which we also talked a lot about and work a lot with in the projects we're doing in design thinking. And why I was attracted to Partner ADA was exactly for this reason, that if we can leverage this big data from a product design standpoint and say, what's the strategy? How are we going to position? Is it here? Is it here? Who is it for? Could there actually, with digital, be a new type of market created? What channels could we use to access that type of consumers? And how would the buying experience feel for those consumers? And can we actually create new benefits that the traditional market never offered, right?
Yeah.
That's very interesting. And then there's the whole question of, right, how do you actually help organizations set up their marketing machine, their marketing teams, their way of thinking about marketing, now that all these different functions are being converged in a sense and need to collaborate much more. It's in a way become very complex, right? Like, it's not just marketing, it's not just product, it's not just
Yeah,
sales, it's not
it
just
has to
IT,
be.
not just
Yeah, yeah.
actually, yeah. So what is it that you're seeing the companies that are doing this stuff well? How have they organized themselves internally? One thing is they may have partners like you, but what have they done internally to make that work better? And what is it that maybe the old school guys who are still thinking print and billboards and haven't gotten the joke yet, what is it that they have gotten wrong?
So and this, I think that this trend is not new, but it has started 4 or 5 years back. That CTO and CMO functions are merging or becoming one, or they have started work. Progressive companies have made sure that CTOs and CMOs work together, right?
Yeah.
And it is driven by exactly what you said, that marketing cannot exist without technology and data if you want to do it. And I'm a big believer on creativity, but and we will talk about it later. But if you have to do marketing in today's world, you need to harness data and technology. And hence, companies which are, I have seen so many companies which collects tons of data, but that data is sitting in some server which CTO is guarding with his life. He doesn't know that the power of that data. It is just data which nobody can touch and nobody is allowed to touch. And there are so many nuggets which are sitting there, which the marketing guys can use. I will not take names, but there are many times, even today, when sometimes we work with the clients, we have to do two pitches, one to the CTOs, one to a CMO, to help them, make them come together. And that's the job we are happy to do. But that's what it is, right? But progressive companies.
I didn't know you were running a Tinder for C-suites, but it sounds like you have to do a bit of matchmaking for them to find each
they
other.
need to. They need to. They need to. Whatever. I have not used Tinder. Unfortunately, it came way after my time. But I guess left swipe or right swipe, whatever it is, together, right? And the third thing, which is the interesting part, is that customer experience is becoming the central part of it, right? Uh, Nobody used to pay attention so much to the customer experience because it was uh, I have produced goods from a factory and I have delivered it to my wholesaler and this thing, and it is now customer experience is all about whatever the retailers will talk about. If you are selling, say, an FMCG or stuff, right? And in service companies also, it was not too much of an issue, right? uh, and that's why we see that. I'm sorry, but I'm part of telcos. My parent company is telco, but telcos are the most hated brands. Though they are the most essential brands, they are the most hated brands. Survey after survey, if you look at in US or any other country, telcos are always rated low on that I don't like this brand.
More confidence, right? And so on.
Correct. Because there's so much of interface with the consumers, and I guess that is and that creates so much of friction. So smart people are saying that the next battle will be on CX. The differentiator will be on CX, right? How you manage the customer journey, understand the customer journey, and also enhance the customer experience at every point of the customer journey, right? Because even if you're buying stuff at the store in the 7-Eleven or any other place, you are doing a lot of research, and everybody's opinionated now because of the anonymity of internet. Everybody wants to use a product, good or bad. They want to give an opinion. So it's super important.
And we're having a client piece. We obviously can't mention who the client is, who kind of came to us and said, well, we already have the data. Our insights team have the data, right? But when they started talking about the data, actually what they had was basically the financial value of various segments to the organization, not really what the customers wanted, right? So they thought that they knew what they needed to operate, but they were completely missing out the mirror in the car where you look to the left before you change lane, right? So both from a company strategy or from a product strategy standpoint, it can be lethal to ignore this type of data. But I guess a lot of the larger organizations are probably not well prepared for this challenge to some extent. Is there a risk that with all the data that they're compiling, that they're kind of missing out the human element? Or is there an opportunity to use the data to get technology to help us as brands be more human, be more relevant to our customers, be more relevant even to our employees, perhaps?
Yeah, I guess that a lot of time data is very intimidating, right? I'm not a data guy, but I understand the fundamental thing is understanding the value of data and not be worried about the data, but what insights you can cull out of the data. And that's the mental shift which is required, because if you're not from a data statistics engineering field. I'm not an engineering student, I studied biology, right? But I understand the value of an insight, and that's what, there are smart people who can give you insight. So you have to ask the right questions and let the smart people go and look at the data, whatever data it is, to come and give you the insight. The value of the data is insights, right? Data itself is useless. Uh, and in earlier days, we used to, people say, oh, in earlier days it was all about very intuitive. It was not. uh, uh, the best of creative people were, without knowing, they were collecting and analyzing data where they were talking to consumers, right? They were constantly on the lookout. They were going and visiting shops, that is collecting data. You are going and observing different human beings. Without the collective data of experience, you cannot create insight. It is impossible, right? Everybody says that, oh, insights come from within. It is not. It is a huge amount of experiences which somebody has collected, and then analyze it, and there comes those bright sparks, which so there, it is data, right? And second is that there are many kinds of data. It is not about all the time looking at a kind of data. uh, and and simple things like understanding your census in your country can be a very good starting point to understand how, what is the population dispersion in different states and cities, right? What is happening, employment rates, everything is there published. You don't have to. So the second part of the problem is that, oh, I have to spend millions of dollars to collect data. It is not. There is a lot of what we call as environment data which is freely available, which one, right? If you are like Anchor example, all you have to go, and if you're selling product on e-commerce, spend half an hour or ask a trainee to look at all the comments which people have left about your product. You will get way more insights about your product and how it is being used, and where are the problems, than any consumer survey can give you, right? And you don't have to spend a dollar, right? uh, and second is that, uh, like, if you have a website, it, it is designed to collect data, right? So have you thought about it, or you just plonked a website, or have you thought about it that, oh, there are tools and technologies I can enable, which are not very expensive, where I can understand what pages customers are reading, where are they bouncing off from, did I manage to collect a little, his name or number or email, so that I can contact them. These are basic fundamental things, but they have a huge impact if you start looking at it. So it is being the everybody is data rich, but data aware and insight aware is what matters. If I have to put it succinctly, right? And then how do you? Then everything is about insights, and insights have to work at a human level, and that is where uh, you can have all the data in the world, but if you don't have people who can ask the right question to get the insights and then create something interesting from that insight, right? Whether it is an ad or a product or a service, then it is useless, right?
And exactly, and that's where I'm seeing the kind of combination between, I guess you can talk about the art and the science. Design thinking obviously comes very much from the creative space, but there is also a huge potential to combine, you can say, the qualitative research with more of the and vice versa, right? Do you see that there's kind of in the marketing community a discussion between is marketing about art or about science, or is it both? I'm sure it's a discussion that can be heated, but I would imagine some people feel threatened. The very creative people who came up with great slogans, great logos, great campaigns that actually created impact in the past without all this data, that might feel threatened by technology. There might be technology people saying, yeah, you're the fluffy guys. What data have you got to back up your creativity? What's your thought on that?
I guess that was the battle has always been there, but in different form and shape, right? I'm sure we were not born then. It was way before our time. When advertising, everybody thought that print is the medium for advertising because that was what was there, right? And when electronic medium came, radio came, and somebody thought of creating a radio jingle, everybody would have said, "What an idiot!"
Mm.
Correct. And this doesn't work because advertising is all about reading, spending time. Uh, who will listen to a jingle? And then the second, when television came, and so on and so forth, right? I remember that the discussion happened that cable TV is going to on-demand TV is going to kill advertising, and all kinds of. But it is creativity has always sustained and found ways to express itself, right? And those who lament that, oh my god, because of data my creativity is dying, I guess that is a very short-sighted vision of how you look at creativity, right? Fundamentally, why are you, if you are in marketing or advertising, you are not creating something to hang behind your wall like you have,
Mm-hmm.
right? It has to have a commercial purpose. Point number one. Point number two, if it has to be a commercial, it has to be created for commercial purpose, then it has to reach the right people and move the right people. If data is helping you reach much more closely to a certain, because you understand them better, then you can create advertising, much better advertising, because you can still write a beautiful slogan, but then you can write the beautiful slogan going back to the mother example for a single mother with two kids, because that is your target audience. And then
Yeah.
you can use the technology to write another slogan for a working mother with two kids, which will be a slight tweak. And with technology, you have to just, so that is expanding the horizon for your creativity, making it come closer to a lot more people who would have otherwise not be moved.
Yeah, and I
So
really felt that the advertising was polluting their experience, but suddenly now the advertising can be relevant to me, and I can connect with it and care about it, and I see the things that I care about, and I don't get disturbed by all the noise. Right? That's
yeah,
at least the problem.
and to be honest, and if I were to take the side of the creative guys, that I guess that it people were very quick to come up and said, here comes the death of advertising. Now algorithms will write the copy, and technology will deliver. So it is death of humans in advertising. I don't think that is going to ever happen. Till the time, never say never, till the time somebody can write a beautiful play like Shakespeare, or a poetry like a poet. Algorithms can write it, then we can talk about it. But
Mm-mm.
in our lifetime, at least, we will require. I think that creativity and data should work hand in hand, and not listen to the extreme people who are, and they had commercial reasons too. The traditional agencies were trying to say, oh, data corrupts creativity, because they didn't know what to do. And the data people were trying to say, you don't need creativity, data is enough, because they could not attract creative people, fundamentally.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
of them lacked a very important ingredient, which makes marketing great, and hence they were trying to peddle their wares, depending on what they had. And to be honest, they were not doing service. Both of them were doing disservice to the industry.
Yeah, yeah, we call that challenge human ink in a sense, right? It's linking the human element with what's the
Yeah.
business and technology answer, right? But the technology alone is not interesting if it doesn't connect with humans. The human aspect alone, if you're not leveraging technology and making money on it, it's not going to be sustainable business, right? What are your thoughts on kind of how can you say, the opportunity to link more to purpose, because we know that purposeful brands that have not just an aspiration to create the best chocolate, but brands that stand for something, brands that want to create a better future in a certain space, they attract better talent. They actually have better return on investment in terms of buying shares. They often have more cost-effective business models and so on, apart from being more sustainable. Do you think, and I don't know if there is any data on it, but I would imagine that brands like that would have a higher ROI on their marketing than brands that don't have that kind of aspirational purpose that consumers can connect with. Is that a trend that you're seeing out here in Southeast Asia, or is it more like mainly the regulators and the investors that are looking for sustainability, and not so much the consumers, and therefore not the brands? Or
no, I guess that brands live in an ecosystem which is becoming very demanding on everybody to be responsible. Like our kids are way more aware of social responsibility than we were, right? Because the way they are being educated in school, uh, and the amount of information they are exposed to, we were pretty much shielded from what shit was going on in the world till we started reading newspaper and we and looking at news. But kids have got access to everything, and they are forming opinions, and there is research after research where uh, that consumers are becoming more responsible. So, and hence brands with purpose. Uh, I have never seen a study where it is not proven that brands with purpose don't come on top of brands which have.
yeah.
It always helps to tell you the story. It'll always help you to attract more talent, because that's what we all believe at the core, right? uh, Fundamentally, we are not transactional beings. We are beings who even if we are not doing much, but we want to be part of something which has got a purpose, right?
Yeah. So the whole need for kind of we're certainly seeing that the need for storytelling, even internally in the company, as the digital transformation is going on, and new leaders are maybe brought in to drive that. And now there's a chief digital officer, and what does it mean? Am I going to lose my job now that they're automating stuff? The need for storytelling to make change meaningful, to make it a good thing for customers, citizens, employees, depending on who the stakeholders are, right? Is probably not reduced but heightened. And maybe we can use data and insights to make that storytelling more accurate, more effective, more empathetic, more considerate, right, to understand the bigger, to understand the recipient, because they determine what the message is, as the saying goes, right?
Right.
We have actually we have a question here from Husni. So thanks, Husni, for signing in here. So he's asking, hi Anurag, based on your experience, which data points did you ignore that could have led to a failure? So what could maybe be mistakes when looking at data that could maybe lead CMOs or marketing teams or even agencies to kind of make a mistake?
Sometimes, because there are many ways the data is collected, and in marketing there are many facets. There are many ways the consumer connects with your brand, right? So sometimes when you are looking at incomplete data, that what happened on the website, and you ignored the sales data, or ignored your other data, say app data or whatever. I'm just making it up. So fundamentally, the very old adage that half the knowledge is more dangerous than no knowledge, right?
We know it all now. We got it. We got this.
So that is fundamentally. So you need to. Biggest mistake is when we look at wrong data, and then we jump into conclusion that data is, or say for example, you have not looked at a data for a longer time frame. You looked at what happened last week, and data is saying that consumers are not liking this, and you pull out stuff. Or you looked at the data where a fringe group, the consumers who are not even important for you, never bought it, but they have commented on something which you put out there. Okay, now it is up to you to choose whether you want to ignore that, or you want to really take action. If that set of consumers are never going to buy you, never bought you, then why should you bother, right? So what kind of data you have to look at? So that I see it again and again. That you people tend to see the data which they think is going to give them maximum comfort, and then try to take the decision, or try to look at data which proves that they are right, and ignore everything else.
Yeah.
That is, I guess, it beats the purpose. Rather than that, don't even look at data.
Yeah.
Then, so that's what I hope it
And
answers
that's
the question.
no, that was an excellent answer. And Hussein, feel free to ask more questions or comment. What have you seen in your experience? And also to all our viewers, feel free to ask any questions or drop any comments, whether during the live show here for the next 25 minutes or after the fact. Please drop your comments and feel free to tag us as well. We're happy to answer also online later. So I guess this kind of begs the question around data can be scary, right? Because many people, particularly people in power, and there are a lot of probably old men with gray hair like us, or maybe no hair and longer beards than us, who maybe have come from a time where the fact that you were senior meant that you were right to some extent, that power gave some privilege. And it's now becoming harder and harder to be a leader because you make it in the sense that the data speaks for itself. Everybody can find the data, or a lot of data is available already. People in your organization can challenge you very easily. If you come in as a consultant, as an expert, if you don't have your shit together, it's very easy for people to call you out, right? And we all have to be more open to being wrong, because it's so easy to get it wrong now. And we may have thought we had 100% of the picture, but someone could come with a wider frame and say, well, I've looked at some other data sets, right? And here's what they're telling us. So I think the humility to be open to be wrong takes a lot of courage and a lot of vulnerability for the great CMO or the great CEO or the chairman of the board when an agency comes in and says, actually, we're here to create value and we can't ignore what the consumers are telling us, right? So I would imagine that there's a bit, in a way, new culture around how to work with data that is emerging and is needed. And I think also leaders are doing a good job at trying to be more open to this, even though it's scary, right? And probably more scary sitting from home and not being able to have some makan and some food and kind of ease the tensions a bit after the heated business discussion, right? I think what we're seeing is also that people coming more from the creative side or from the people side need to be more data savvy, need to be more technology savvy, and we're seeing that engineers, IT folks, and so on need to be more people and business savvy for us to kind of braid these pieces together, right? And to create that convergence that we talked about earlier, right? How do you have any kind of tips for people on those two sides in terms of what have you seen working well for creative, maybe more empathetic, people-oriented folks working with technology people, and maybe the vice versa, technology IT people working with the more softer aspects, which are still very important.
Yeah, and it's a very, very important point because so a couple of things. There was a lot which you packed in there. So
yeah,
I guess everybody has to accept that change is upon them. The day your grandmother buys on e-commerce and also leaves a comment, then you should. It's the end of the world. Meaning things have changed for real, right?
Yeah.
We always say, "Oh, my 8-year-old, but they were born with a iPad on their hand." But the grandmother was not. But she decided that, okay, I will go and log in and open my account and go and buy whatever I want to buy on your credit card. Then the world has changed. So we have to accept life is not going to be the same ever, whether we are working or we are at home, correct? And hence the appreciation of technology and data. When the grandmother can do it, you also can do it. And humility that everybody has to play like in our organization. We if you walk into any ADA office, it will be hard for you to make out who's the creative guy, who's the data guy, who's the client servicing guy, and who's the consultant. They all sit together. We encourage them to hang out together. We encourage them to. So there is no discrimination.
Breaking the silos could be one key tip here.
Yeah, it is just one continuous team. So and we have free seating. Anybody can sit. So those are little things. Yeah, these are sometimes they work, sometimes they are an irritant, but you have to continue doing stuff till you hit the right model for your company, right? Yeah, and there is no, I guess that there is no recipe, because it depends on how, what kind of a company you are, what culture, what is the underpinning. We are a very young company, right? So we literally sat and wrote, what do we want to be, right?
Yeah.
And hence we shaped our company like that. But the legacy companies have a much bigger challenge, where IT department was in basement two, right? Correct. Nobody even knew that there was an IT department, and then basement one was human resource, and then and CEO was in the top floor. That
Yeah.
needs to go, because that is something, like in our organization, our entire organization chart is inverted. So CEO is at the bottom. Yes, we
I
always
love that.
present in chart, and every kind of data about uh, uh, sex ratio, gender ratio, leavers, joiners, every kind of data is openly shared. Even the employee surveys which we do is openly shared. Everybody knows what is happening in the company. There is most of the things which we share, it is available for everybody to read it.
And this is very interesting. And this type of radical transparency, how has that helped you? Because I'm sure that there might be some of our viewers who is like, yeah, but that surely wouldn't work in my bank, or we could never do that with our people in our agro company.
That you have to find what, for us, we took a call that we will do that, right?
Yeah.
And we are not a small company now. Okay, compared to a bank, we are, but we are a 800 people company across 10 markets. We felt that it was important, and especially when everybody is cooped up in the home, the more transparency you have, the more empathy and affinity which you create. Otherwise, people do not know what is happening, right? So we over communicate. And we use digital all the time. My boss, he's like paranoid about understanding, looking at data, and unearthing what are the employee insights which we can, and hence we can take action on it, right?
Yeah.
So there is that kind of a culture where we harness data to understand our own people. If we don't understand our own people and use data on our own organization, then what are we talking to? Then to our consumers, right? So that we do quite a bit. And what we have seen is that it was hard. It was not easy, because people try to hang out in their own tribes. So we bought structures. We tried this thing, and we continue playing around with it, and it works. We made sure that when we do pitches or proposals, data guys are not sitting in the background. They go and present. So they also know what is happening. Otherwise, poor guys, they will write fancy algorithms, but never know whether it worked or not, right?
Yeah. So I'm hearing a few tips here. So there's something around breaking silos, creating a high level of transparency in the organization, and maybe even in a way reversing the idea of hierarchy. So the servant leader, in a sense, supporting everyone in doing the real work that creates the value for customers, right, and creates impact, and making people feel how important they truly are. The idea of maybe moving IT and HR out of the basement, as you said, like we may need to unlearn and forget the old kind of loaded view of these old corporate functions, and perhaps get teams to work much more how can I say, cross-functionally, or have HR broken out into HR in this team, finance in this team, IT in this team, so that people have also the emotional relationships and accessibility. It's not those guys on the other floor, or in the other department, or in the other building, or in another country who's serving us. To create that kind of proximity could maybe be one. Where do you think, if we kind of then look ahead and we take the crystal ball and say, where is this crazy world going, and what might be some wild unqualified guesses now that you've seen the first telco in India and you've worked in continents, and you're seeing the change of of agencies and digital changing marketing and so on. Where do you think, if you were to make some wild guesses, where we might be 3, 5, 10 years from now? What kind of spaces do you think would change? Is it the relationship between the brands and the agencies? Is it the type of job roles we're seeing? Will the technology possibilities change the feeling and experience for the consumers? What kind of wild guesses would you make, if any? We can always jump on a LinkedIn Live again in 10 years and see if we were wrong.
But then it's fun to do this, right? So fundamentally, if and to I believe that if you have to predict future, then you have to look at the past, that and understand the journey, right? So if I guess that all the technology and data, the cost of entering into market is become, the barriers have lower down. Anybody can be an entrepreneur, right? Anybody sitting at the basement can do launch a product or a service, doesn't matter, right? There was a time when you required a lot of capital and a lot of backing, lot of this. That is democratized. Anybody can start selling anything, right? Your and my organization might change, because it is changing. That there are a whole bunch of independent consultants and marketing people who are sitting in the basement and picking and choosing what they need to do, because they didn't need an expensive office or any overheads. They have the knowledge, and they can reach out to clients, and they can market as well as we do, right? And hence, fundamentally, the value of brands and differentiation, and the brands creating much better, brands will have to develop much better storytelling skills, because at the end of the day, like 3 years, 4 years back, everybody said that you cannot have infinite amount of product superiority, because everything can be copyable, right? So look at telco, look at how much differentiation you can bring in a shampoo bottle. Not much. So it all ends up being mental differentiation, customer experience. So hence the maxim came that customer experience is going to be the king. But now with so much happening, and technology, the cost of technology is coming down. So whatever was expensive technology which we were using on marketing is going to come down. Google, Facebook are all wanting to be self-serve at the end of the day. You will not need, to be honest, an agency to do it, okay? To serve your ads. And hence there will be so many brands, and consumers will become so picky and so spoiled for choices, that in order for you to differentiate and be relevant, you need to tell better stories, you need to garner better insights, and you need to be an anchor again, where how to find the right product category and find the right insight, so that I can launch and create a $2 billion brand. You need to continuously do that. So if I were to crystal gaze, creativity will become ever more important, okay? There will be very many avenues to express creativity, right? So it will not be about just an ad which is interrupting your in experience, whether you are reading a newspaper and all that. How it can weave into what you are doing, right? So there'll be different models which will emerge, that and people have been talking about it. So if you leave out all the gadgetry, that AR, VR, and this and that, and humans will become cyborg, if you leave out all that, there'll be way more brands and choices, and hence more than what we have now, the need to differentiate, and very competitive market, on price, on features, and everything. So you have to tell better stories at the end of the day. That's what I feel.
Very, very exciting. And I guess maybe building on that, I would imagine that we would also see that data and digital and access to consumers, and that you can say democratization of business also means that there will be almost an infinite long tail of wildly diversified niche
Absolutely.
markets that
Absolutely.
large corporates, at least traditionally, wouldn't pay attention to. But this could also be where the disruption could come from, that they don't pay attention to these lower value sub segments that could suddenly grow very, very fast and from a very low cost base at a very efficient business model. So there's also something to be said about the whole idea of kind of creating a platform design and platform economy in terms of how can large brands actually leverage the creativity of the entrepreneurs or even entrepreneurs internally in the company to actually innovate on the platform and APIing and all this stuff. Actually, in a way, set the power of creativity free and say, but do it on our platform. We'll make it easy for you. We have the payment gateway here. We have a plug-in marketing solution here from ADA, perhaps, or whatever it might be, right? So that could be one, and maybe even going one step further, the talk about prosumers, producers and consumers becoming one. That you can maybe both be a consumer, but you may also be someone creating value for other consumers, right? Or you could be part of the your engagement with a brand is what creates your customer experience. You choose how your screen should look. You choose what flavor you want in your burger. You choose the kind of segment of one idea and so on. Are you seeing anyone? No, before I say that. So and finally, back to what you said about purpose, or rather story, meaning, right? I would also think that stories that resonate are also stories that go back to, in a way, universal values that we all care about: health, well-being, safety, peace, these kind of pieces, leaving a legacy, building a better world for the poor, for our children, nation building, whatever it might be, right? That these pieces will become increasingly important for brands to be able to tell meaningful stories about, not bankers planting a tree, but maybe bankers using their banking skills to build a better financial future for all of us, or something like that.
Yeah, and the biggest proof is, Chris, is that for thousands of years our stories have not changed. Characters have changed, but we have been expecting the same kind of outcomes. People will be moved with the same kind of emotions, and same stories will be told and retold with different medium, different characters, different formats, short stories, long stories. So I guess that people give too much thought to how. I don't think that in the whole our history of evolution, we are just a blip. We are just evolving, right? So of the planet, if you look at it, we are just a blip, human race. So we think that we give too much of credit to ourselves, that we are going to fundamentally change as human beings. At least next to 300. Like everybody said, oh my God, we were talking about it yesterday, that COVID would fundamentally change how people behave. You look at how people are holidaying today, wherever nothing has changed. We are incorrigible species. We will never change, and hence we will love stories.
Ash is saying, nice talk. Feel free to ask a question or comment. We'll have a few more minutes. So now we've had kind of to maybe summarize a little bit, we've had the conversation around how the role of marketing and is being changed by digital, the convergence of the different spaces. We talked a bit about the human opportunity and how to balance the storytelling and creativity with the use of data and technology. That companies are sitting on this trove of data, but are still maybe getting better at utilizing it. There are some winners in that race, and there may be some losers already, or at least future losers if they don't catch up. We're talking a bit about where might this be going. Some wild predictions here. What do you think, maybe as the last piece here? What do you think is kind of the opportunity from a product design standpoint, from a service design standpoint, in terms of leveraging data and a rich consumer understanding better, because I mean that's one space that we're working together on, right? And when I'm seeing companies coming at this, there's a lot of traditional thinking in the boardroom and in the C-suite in a lot of companies still around, well, we have these products, we are in industry X, we're a bank, we're an insurance company, we're a telco or a line, and this is what we offer. And how can we be better than the other guys, and can we do a benchmarking? But maybe not so much that rich understanding of how are Malaysian or Indonesian or whatever market you're targeting, how are consumers thinking in different segments? What is it that they care about? And I know some people are looking at these pieces and are very good at it, but there's still a lot of kind of industry myopic thinking, right? What do you think is the opportunity to kind of combine this big data with creativity and product design or strategy?
But that is already happening, Chris. But the whole lowest common denominator mentality is sometimes it's come in the way, right? That whatever you are designing, and why should you have same experience if somebody's coming to your website? Okay, why should they have a same experience? Because they are not. You and I are two different people, right? Our expectations are the same. Are different sometimes, and are the way we interact with stuff. And data enables us to understand these nuances well. I'm trying to dramatize to make a point, but at an individual level. But I'm saying that at a cohort or a cultural or even at a country level, that why should you have same kind of experience if you are a multi-country brand? It is very easy to understand what the consumers. You don't have to be a genius to do that, or you don't have to get expensive research to find that out. Consumers are actually leaving trails which are actually shouting at you. You know exactly, if you have a website, that where consumers are dropping off in a journey, and that if 1,000 people have come and suddenly you know that after 3 clicks they are every 75% people are dropping off, then consumers are telling you that, boss, something is wrong. It's me, right? And you can break that information into who's dropping off, who's not dropping off, by age, by gender, and it is all possible. So the trick is to say that data helps me understand more, not to be creepy, but at least wherever I can unearth and make the experience better, because it goes such a long way. I was doing an audit of a company, the telco, where I was seeing that, okay, how many clicks it takes to buy connection, right? In a word, you cannot expect a consumer to jump 3 pages and around 11 clicks to buy a connection. You cannot. When they are used to 1, 2, 3 clicks. So, and here it is in your bag and you have already done. And it is so irritating for us. We are not digital natives. At least I am not. I don't know about you. Is that, oh my God, the payment page is loading. It is so, why is OTP not come immediately? It becomes irritating, right? We want instant stuff. And hence, we need to be very careful, like what you said, that customer experience, employee experience, it is very easy to understand because you have got now data, and people leave trails. Earlier, it was impossible to understand that, right? Now you are able to.
I love the passion and I love the sharing, Anurag. I'm so grateful that you could join tonight, and I guess you could say, based on what you just said, right? This is not just about customers. This is also about citizens, patients, elderly parents that need care, right? It's everything that we can use this for, right? And for example, I was part of facilitating a roundtable on healthcare industry and well-being, right? And we had some discussions also after this around like, what if we could create a healthcare system that truly understands the patient, where it's not me as the patient that has to run around and try to understand the healthcare system, right? And the world is becoming so complex in terms of what you need to do as a citizen for your family, for your children, for your parents, for your employer, for the tax. I mean, there's so many things that we have to crunch constantly and prioritize between, right? And there's so much opportunity to help individuals do that at a lower burn, right? Where you're making it easy for me to make good decisions. And sometimes the system, the company, my service provider, the government, an NGO, my community crowd could actually help me make better decisions that I can make myself, right? That is also the promise of big data made relevant for the individual, right? So I think it was a hugely inspiring convo. I'm grateful you took time for this. And we definitely invite anyone who saw this to comment, ask questions, and tag us. And finally, feel free to share it with folks in your organization or in your family or in your university or wherever they are that you think could be inspired by this. Feel free also to suggest any speakers or topics that we should cover next. Perhaps, Anurag, you can think on who you think I should talk to next, and you can tell me over our next coffee or something. Yeah, but thank you so much for joining, and really exciting convo. So we were we're ending just on the hour here, so nice and clean.
Thanks, Chris. It was great chatting with you. It is always great chatting with you. I hope it was useful for whoever was watching. Feel free to ping me on LinkedIn if you want to discuss or talk to me. Very happy, always ready to engage. And by now you know how passionate I am about this. So anytime. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Take care. Bye. Good night.
Thanks, mate.
Bye-bye.